Welcome to the 12 Tribes Life Center. This lesson is called Gluttony, Abominable Foods, and Strong Drink. We will be reading from Isaiah chapter 61, 1-6 as we start. We hope that you continue to follow us and that the word will be a light onto you, and it should give you the information that you need as you go through this walk. So I'm going to begin chapter 61 of Isaiah. Verse 1 says, "The Spirit of the Most High is upon me, because the Most High has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound." Verse 2, "To proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High, and the day of vengeance of our strength, to comfort all that are mourn." Verse 3, "To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Father, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old waste, they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities and desolations of many generations." Verse 5, "And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers." Verse 6, "But you shall be named the priest of the Most High. Men shall be called you the ministers of the Most High. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall you boast yourselves." Hallelujah. That reading is for the beginning of this lesson, and we feel that this should also kind of get us into the realm of what we are going to talk about. I have another verse from Isaiah. The precept is Isaiah chapter 6, 8-10. It says, verse 8, "Also I heard the voice of the Most High, saying, Whom shall I send, and whom will go for us? Then said I, Here I am, send me." That's what the prophet Isaiah said. Verse 9, "And he said, Go and tell this people, Hear you indeed, but understand not, and see you indeed, but perceive not." Verse 10, "Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed." That was a reading of Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8-10. Now, we are going to talk about diseases that relates to the food can come from a plethora of things. The diseases from the food can cause, and do cause, many early deaths of the children of Israel, wherever land they're in, specifically in the land of America. There's four things base I found. First was an addiction to food, good and bad foods. I mean, have good foods, you overeat good foods, you can put yourself in some sort of sickness. And if you definitely eat bad foods that goes against the word of the Father, you will get sick, and it will cause you untimely death. So too much of a good thing or an excessive eating can cause some of these problems that we are going to talk about. And we have some good news from it also. Number 2, what we eat can cause food addiction and cravings actually. Foods that we eat today, a lot of the foods are made in a plant. instead of coming from a plant, they're made in a plant. Food factory. Food is manufactured. So there are ingredients in the foods. Along with the foods that's what they call GRAS, generally recognized as safe. And then you have the genetically modified organisms. Then you have crossbred foods. And then you have foods that are clean, but they're defiled. So you might have an apple, but they sprayed a lot of chemicals within the root. And the chemicals, though is for preventing bugs and other little creatures, it can be harmful to you because of the makeup of the chemical. It's not a natural fertilizer or natural sort of pesticide. Okay? The third one is rebellion. Some of us hear the word and still want to err it and continue in the ways that they have inherited from their forefathers and foremamas. Generational bondage. We learn to eat the way our parents taught us how to eat. So we eat in any way, and you know that it's not good. You know some of the foods are not good, but we have an addiction. We crave it because it's in our DNA and our RNA, so we will continue to eat it until you cannot. And then we get sick, and then it can cause other problems for us. And when you're sick, you can't do anything. You can't even serve the Most High until you get better. Okay? And the fourth one is bad information concerning foods for the children of Israel. We follow the ways of the nations that we live, and that becomes a problem for us. Their way is not Father's way. It says, I'm going to read in the book of Jeremiah. I'm going to read from Jeremiah 10. I know you have heard this before. Jeremiah 10, I'm going to read it. Jeremiah 10, verse 1. And 1 to 3. Jeremiah 10:1 says, Hear you the word which the Most High speak unto you, O house of Israel. This is Jeremiah speaking to Israel, the house of Israel. Thus says the Most High, Learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. As you know, they use the sign, they use heaven to determine, the star to determine the farmer's almanac and follow certain things. So these can cause problems with the way they devise the way to plant their food, to do other things, worship. So you cannot eat foods that worship the idols, that are not being dedicated to idols. That's another thing. Clean foods could be dedicated to idols, especially the flesh, basically. You do not want to eat that. Okay? If you're an Israelite, you cannot eat food that's offered up to, let's use Krishna or Buddha, all the other powers. Verse 3, For the customs of the people are vain. So the customs of the people are vain. I'm going to stop right there. And what we mean by the customs, they do things that's not of the commandments of the Father, or the ways or the instructions of our Almighty Creator. So this will cause us to transgress the law. The law is our life. So we need to know that. Now, we must remember that the Father made a promise to us, to our forefathers in the wilderness. In the wilderness, in chapter 23 of the book of Exodus, verse 25, this is what he said. Verse 24, I'm going to start at. And you shall not bow down to their deities, nor serve them, nor after their works. But you shall utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images, which we did not. Verse 25, this is what he says. And you shall serve the Most High your strength, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, food and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. So that is something that will be fulfilled, was fulfilled, and will continue as long as the children of Israel exist. So we are a rebellious people. Our forefathers were rebellious. When they were in the garden, the first thing they did, they complained about the foods they used to have back in Egypt and how they missed the, I'm going to read it. Exodus chapter 16, verse 1. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, and the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. They just got out, fresh from not knowing the law. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured, which means complained, against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. Here we go. You see where we get this stuff from. Verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would our strength that we had us die by the hand of the Most High in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots? Look how these Negroes still the same way. Okay. And when we did eat bread to the full, eat until our belly was full. For you have brought us forth into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. They're complaining to Moses already. But as you know, the Father provided the food, brought the quails in, and after that, the greedy ones, he gave them the food and the manna. And the ones who still complain, the Father tested them. That's what he did. Okay? So we know within that 40 years, summarizing 40 years, I'm going to read it for you. In Exodus 16, verse 34, he says to Aaron, as the Most High commanded Moses, and so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to keep it. That was the manna and the omer as a memorial. Verse 35, here we go. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to the land of their inhabitants. They did eat manna until they came into the borders of the land of Canaan. So, in all those 40 years, they were eating manna and drinking water. They didn't eat any flesh while they were in the wilderness, while he was purging them. 40 years. 40 is that number. Okay, 40 is a peculiar number, and we'll talk about that in another lesson. So we see Israel. To start, Israel was a stiff-necked people, and the Father called them stiff-necked, by the way. So we are talking about gluttony. First is gluttony. Gluttony is the Strong's number, or use the Strong's Concordance, and we're reading from the King James Bible. Strong's number 2151. The Hebrew word in English, so we can pronounce it, is Zala. It means riotous eater and vile eater. One who have no control of their eating. Or if you're gluttony, you have a gluttony, meaning you have overexert or have vile for something. But this is basically referring to food. The etymology of the word glutton. I always like to give the etymology where the root of the word comes from. Okay, gluttony, one who eats and drink to excess. So early 13th century from Old French glutton, also scoundrel, a general term of abuse. Someone who overeat is the abuser. It's a Latin glutonin, overeater. And as we see, it means to swallow, glut, Generally sense, it's referring to one who indulges in anything to excess. And this is from like 1704 that word gluttony was used. Now, I'm going to give the etymology of the word medicine and then doctor, so we'll know where this is coming from. So medicine, and we know food is going to be our medicine. And I'll give you the scripture for it somewhere in the lesson. Medicine, the etymology of the word medicine is in 1200 AD. It's a medical terminology for cure or remedy, also used figuratively of spiritual remedies. From Old French médecine, the art of healing, cure, treatment, or portion. It's a Latin word, healing art, medicine, remedy, also figuratively, perhaps originally the medical art. Okay, so when you go get medicine or treatment, medical treatment, it's supposed to cure you. Now we know that may not be the case here. A lot of our medicines do not seem to heal us because they're not using the medicine prescribed in the Bible and other places within books relating to the Bible, as the book of Jubilee will say. So, and next, the word doctor, or the name doctor, it's a 13th century, 1300 word. It means church father. From the Old French doctor, from medieval Latin doctor, religious teacher, advisor, scholar. In classical Latin teacher, agent, noun, from decor, to show, teach, cause, to know. Originally make an appearing light. So when you see this word doctor, he's not one as you think, someone who cure you. A doctor has nothing to do with curing. That's why you see some of these pastors or people have a doctorate, or doctor is to teach. So a doctor in essence is supposed to teach you, or relating to this word, teach you how to talk about gluttony and how to heal yourself. They should be able to teach you how to heal yourself, but they're not a healer. Okay, next is disease. It's a 14th century word. It means discomfort, inconvenience. So when you are discomfort, you have distress, and in other words, trouble, misfortune, and sickness. So sickness is something that we deal with on a regular basis, and we look for health care in America. We want an Obamacare, but we are supposed to turn to the word, because the children of Israel should not be getting sick from diseases. We need a hospital just in case we get injured, but we should not be getting sick from preventable diseases, which the book in the Bible, Leviticus and Deuteronomy, Leviticus chapter 11 and Deuteronomy chapter 14 talks about some of these fleshly things that we eat. And it's not only flesh that can get you sick, it's some other things that we believe, this world that we live in, they tell us we should eat and we should not be indulging in. Okay? So, we know that there's some things that we are following the customs of the other nations. So the Father said he will put a sign. I'm going to go to the curses. I'm going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 46. Deuteronomy 28:46, you will read what these are. So these curses, it says, Deuteronomy 28 verse 45 and 46. 45 says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee. The curses he's talking about is Deuteronomy 28 verse 15 to 68. You should know that by now. If you don't know, we can go over that at some other point. We'll have lessons on that also. So, moreover, all of these curses shall come upon you, because thee means you, and shall pursue you and overtake you till you be destroyed, because you hearken not unto the voice of our Father, who is our strength, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. Those are his commandments and his statutes. And verse 46, and they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So these things will be upon even the children of Israel perpetual. A sign upon it. Now a sign, let's see what it says a sign is. Strong's number 226, the Hebrew word in English is OTH, off. Off is a sign, means a mark or evidence. And evidently, since the time, let's say 1651, 1638 BC, until now, we still have those signs. And wonders. A wonder is Strong's 4159, Hebrew meaning in English. Mafet, a wonder, a sign, a portent. So what did the Almighty Creator say about disease? This is the, I'm going to give you a summarization from the writings of these laws, statutes, and commandments. Deuteronomy 28, 58 to 62. So I'm going to go to 58, verse 58 to 62. In 58 he says, this is the summarize, if you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and fearful name, the Almighty, our strength. I call him Yah, the Almighty Yah, who is our strength. Verse 59. Then the mighty Yah will make the plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continence. A couple thousand years we're getting these sickness. And of sore sicknesses, and of long continence, hang on us like a white on rice. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which you were afraid of. We're afraid of them today. And they shall cleave unto you. Can't kick them. Verse 61. Also every sickness and every plague, sicknesses from the pork, sicknesses from all the abominable foods, all the fats, all these things. Because we're still eating the fat. You tell us not to eat it, we eat it anyway. Which is not written in the book of this law. They got some that wasn't even written. They didn't have cancer then, they have it now. They didn't have sickle cell then, they have it now. Colitis, they got it now. Gout, they got it now. Fibroids, they got it now. Endometriosis, they got it now. What else they got? Hepatitis C. Well, that's just a little bit. Prostate swelling. Then will Abba Yah bring upon you until you be destroyed. And you shall be left few in number, wherever you were, as the stars of heaven for multitude. There are plenty of us. Because you would not obey the voice of your strength, Abba Yah. So, as we read that, we see where do we have this problem and how are we going to fix it? And it can be fixed. We can get good health. We can return to the Father. So, the disease today is gluttony, and there's also things that cause that gluttony. We have food addiction. Okay? It's brought on by lack of knowledge. That's one. We don't know how to eat. We don't know how to shop. We don't own our own groceries. We don't own our own land to produce our own food. We don't have the skills to do the agriculture aspect of it. And we are divided as a people. And those are some of the things. And the main one was we don't read or meditate on the word to understand where our strength and our health come from through the commandments, statutes, and laws of the book. The second thing, traditions and customs of other nations. You follow what the other nations eat, the way they drink, the way they commune, the way they have their feast, because their way is not our way. We go one direction, just like the Nile, and the rest of the world go another direction. That's the way it should be. You cannot follow the ways of the nations. They eat according to their makeup. Many of the nations, they eat a lot of flesh. They become critical eaters of flesh. They're not agriculture people by nature. Their origin is not of agriculture and sun. And this is just the truth. But we come from an agriculture environment where we can think more because we don't have to chase our food all day. And the Father made the food that be having an affinity, a love. And we will receive the food, and the food will do well for our bodies. It will digest faster. It will give us the strength. We can metabolize the food better. And these are some of the things. But when we don't know how to get our nutrients from our foods, which is our food is our health, our life, then we get sick. Because we err the word and the instructions of the book. Because if we stay in the word, the Father will give us the understanding. He revealed his secrets to his servants. And you are his servants. So, we read in Job, when we talk about clean and unclean foods. So, is every food clean? So, everybody knows by now that the swine, for example, we don't eat the boar like that, but we used to eat pig. And the pig is a hybrid. It means two different types of unclean animals. But that one is a hybrid, the pig. So if you feed the pig is an omnivore. He eats everything. If you feed the pig grains, you feed him millet. Or if you feed him clean, let's say you feed him, let's give him some salmon, some clean wild salmon, because the farm raised is not good. You feed him some salmon. Is he a clean animal now? No, because he is deemed unclean because it's eating nature. He has attributes that you can know whether he's clean and unclean for an animal that walks on the earth. Okay? The birds that fly, they have their attributes. Right? There are attributes for any fowls. The fowls must have a couple attributes. We'll talk about that in another study. And so who can make a clean thing clean? In Job 14, verse 4. I'm going to read that. Job 14:4 says, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Who can bring a clean thing out, make something clean out of an unclean? Not one. No one can. So all the unclean animals, you cannot make it clean. I heard an elder, he was not in the way, should have been, and he said that he grew chicken, for example, and I'm going to talk about the chicken. I did a video on the chicken. Is chicken clean or unclean? Don't want to hear it, but it's what the Father say, and give you the information to you can discern whether the information given is right or wrong. I'll take it off of me. It's not me. It's not me saying it. It's what the scripture says. This is the not saying the interpretation, but this is what documentation, whether it be of the world or be of the scripture, it shows you that animal, that fowl, it is not clean according to what it says in the scriptures. And there are scriptures for it. The video is called, Is Chicken Clean or Unclean? Okay, you can go take a look at it. Again, it's not on me, it's what the words say. And if you disagreement with it, it's okay to disagree. It's not going to change one thing. Okay? Now, if you read Ecclesiastes, and the reason why we do that, we figure, okay, it's not going to bother me. I've been eating pork all my life. Well, because the judgment doesn't come so quickly, we tend to feel it's okay. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm good. But I'm going to read some scriptures here to show you that it's going to make a big difference. Because even though it doesn't come quickly, I'm going to read Ecclesiastes chapter 8, 11 to 13. Ecclesiastes. It's after Proverbs. Okay? To help you get there faster. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. Because, it says, because the sentence, the judgment against an evil work, do something rotten, is not executed speedily. Doesn't happen right away. It can happen 3 weeks from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. Right? Therefore the heart of the sons of men is full set in them to do evil. You eat bad is doing evil. That's an evil thing. He said, don't do it. You go and do it. So if you didn't know and you said, man, I have a love for it, please make an opportunity. You believe in the Father, you can't be wrong, right? You got to believe in spirit and truth. Verse 12, though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged. You might see some, man, grandma, this guy I work with, his grandmother smoked all the days of her life, ate pork. She lived to be 110. Well, not everybody's going to do that. But look what it says. Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and their days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear Yah, which fear before him. But it shall not be well with the wicked. That same granny that lived to be 110, smoked, ate the pork, and just did all kind of wildness. Destroy that temple. Neither shall she prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feared not the Most High. They're going to get it in judgment. They're going to get it in judgment. No one's going to walk away and get away with it. The Father sees things 10 times. The Father sees the wickedness 10 times. Where did I find that at? Okay, this is a cross-reference to Ecclesiastes chapter 8, 11 to 13. This is in Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, S-I-R-A, or S-I-R-A-C-H. It's in the Apocrypha, chapter 23, verse 18. This is a precept that lines up on the other precept. Sirach 23:18 says, a man that break wedlock, for example, saying thus in his heart, who sees me? I am compassed about with darkness. The walls cover me, and nobody see me. What need I to fear? The Most High will not remember my sins. That's what he thinks. Let me continue to read verse 19. Such a man only feareth the eyes of men. They don't see him. And know not that the eyes of the Most High are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men, and considering the most secret parts. He knew all things ever they were created. So also after they were perfected, he will look upon them all. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, where he suspected not he shall be taken. This is an example of a man who slept with another man's wife secretly, and he think nobody saw him, and it came upon him, because the Father sees all righteous and unrighteousness. We don't want the Father. So we can eat, like an example. Let me give you an example of hiding out eating. Hold on. Okay, to tie in that precept, in Isaiah chapter 65, verse 2, going down to verse 8. Okay, the 2 to 8. Well, let me start at 2. Isaiah 65, verse 2. I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walk in the way that was not good after their own thoughts. A people that provoke me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick. They think the Father don't see them. Which remain among the graves. They stay dead and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, pig flesh, bacon, pork chop, pork rings. Right? And the broth of abominable things. Chicken broth, pork broth. Chicken is not according to the scripture. You go eat that chicken, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Okay? Scripture tells us that. The broth of an abominable thing. Because you're figuring out, what broth do I eat is abominable? Well, you eat catfish broth. There's other broth you eat. So you figure, what's the most popular broth out there? Not vegetable broth. The broth of abominable things is in their vessels, within your body, which say, stand by yourself. Come not near me. Don't tell me nothing about that word. For I am holier than you are. I know this more than you. You can't tell me that I can't eat that. You know the attitude. These are a smoke in my nose and a fire that burn all day, says the Father. Behold, it is written before me. I will not keep silent, but will recompense every recompense into their bosom. 7. Your iniquities and iniquities of your fathers together, says the Most High, which have burned incense upon the mountains and blasphemed me upon the hills. Therefore will I measure their former work into their bosom. Verse 8, thus says the Most High, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, destroy it not, for a blessing is in it. So will I do for my servants' sakes, that I may not destroy them all. Not all of us are going to be destroyed, because you have good servants and you have bad ones. I will bring forth a seed out of Jacob and out of Judah, inheritance of my mountain, and my elect shall inherit it, and my servants shall dwell there. Okay? So, let's continue with this lesson. Okay, we are going to Isaiah to continue. Isaiah 66, verse 15 to 17. It reads, for behold, I, the Most High, will come with fire in the last days, with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. Verse 16, for by fire and by his word will the Most High plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Most High shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh. Go again, that pork, I'm telling you, and the abomination. See, the pork is in almost everything. And the mouse. I don't eat a mouse. Yes, you do. You think a guinea pig is? A little rat. The big one is a rat, isn't it? Shall be consumed together, says the Most High. For I know their works and their thoughts. Again, he knows. It shall come, and that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. You're going to see exactly what he's going to do. You're going to see what he's going to do to these folks. So we have folks don't believe those things are going to happen, but you can only lead them to the water. You can only show them the scriptures. So back to more of this disease. Deuteronomy 28, verse 27 to 28. Now, we have some people, you might think they're crazy walking around here, which have some of these diseases you may recognize today. Verse 27 in Isaiah, in action in Deuteronomy 28. The Most High will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch. Wherefore you cannot be healed. Can't be healed. Wow. You can go to the other nations to try to get some healing. You're not going to be healed. You better turn back. The Most High will send you to one of his herbalists, or his healer, because he has his own. Verse 28. The Most High shall smite thee with madness. Got people walking around, family members, you think they're crazy. You know, we have men and women acting just like they got a spirit, but it's also not only a spirit, they're physically going to act crazy from these things. And blindness and astonishment of the heart. And I'm going to read verse 29. And you shall grope at noonday as the blind grope in the darkness, and you shall not prosper in thy ways, and you shall be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man will save you. No man is going to save you. Only Abba is going to save you. That's what he says. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 29. Okay? So let's go. Let's keep on reading this, because we have a lot more to share with you. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? In Ezekiel chapter 44, we're going to read, what are we to do? Verse 23, Ezekiel 44, chapter 44, verse 23. And they shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane. Clean and unclean, right? And cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. Again, Ezekiel 44, verse 23. And they shall teach my people, that's the children of Israel, the difference between the holy and profane, and cause them to discern between the clean and the unclean. Verse 24. And in controversy they shall stand in judgment, and they shall judge in accordance to my judgment. And they shall keep my laws and my statutes in all my assemblies, and they shall hallow my Shabbats. It's very important. You need to read that over, because it's very important. You cannot coming up, not wanting to do the law to take care of your health, because Israel is a set apart nation. You are required to keep your temple in good shape, in good inside and your mind, your body, the flesh and the spirit. Got to be balanced. The flesh must subject itself to the spirit. I'm going to go to, hold on. Okay, so we have peoples that believe, they ask, is the law of not eating flesh and unclean, defiled foods done away with? They say the law is done away with. The law of not eating unclean flesh and defiled foods of the Gentiles not done away. So let's go to Matthew chapter 5, 16 to 17. Matthew 5, 16 to 17. So for Christian folks who read the New Testament in the book according to Matthew, chapter 5, verse 15, chapter 5, verse 16, 16 to 17, it says, let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify the Father which is in heaven. So how are you going to glorify the Father if you're not following his instructions on clean and unclean? Eating. This one is talking about eating. Of course there's others, but you cannot be a glutton and glorify the Father. You cannot eat anything. And we're going to show that in the books, right? Verse 17. Think not that I have come to destroy the law. What law is he talking about? Well, he tells you law or the prophets. So the law is not destroyed, or what the prophets said. We just read Ezekiel, right? We read Moses, right? I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Okay? Fulfill. So verse 18 says, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. Has heaven passed yet? Are we still on and earth? Are we still on the earth? Till heaven and earth has passed, meaning gone. Not one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law until it be all fulfilled. The law has not been fulfilled yet. Right? The law has not been fulfilled yet. He says, whosoever therefore shall break one of these commandments and shall teach men to do so, they shall be least in the kingdom of heaven. You're not getting in. Okay? And that's what it says in Matthew. The book according to Matthew. In Matthew chapter 4, the book according to Matthew chapter 4, verse 4, it says, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone. Not only food, but what? But by every word that proceed out of the mouth of Yah. The word is in the Bible. It's in the Genesis to Deuteronomy, along with the book of Jubilees. Okay? So, as part of the commandments, statutes, and judgments, the commandments tell you what to eat. So we're going to continue going. Okay? That was Matthew chapter 4, verse 4. Now we're going to go to Romans chapter, let's go to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 we're going to go to. Romans chapter 12. I'm going to start at Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I beseech thee, you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. Your bodies a living sacrifice. Holy, acceptable unto Yah. You eating pork, is that acceptable? You eating catfish, you eating shrimp, all this thing. Oh, is that acceptable? That's the question. Read Leviticus chapter 11 with the laws of eating clean and unclean, which we'll cover. Which is your reasonable service. And that is important for us to do, because that's what we're supposed to do. And be not conformed to this world. Don't follow the ways of heathens or the other peoples. But be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. You learn new now. Now you know. That you may prove that what is good, your walk, and acceptable and perfect, the will of the Most High. Okay? That is important. That is a very important thing to do. Save yourself from yourself. Okay. In the book written by Paul to the Romans, is the letter to the letter of Paul, of the apostle Paul to the Romans. He wrote these to the Romans, right? But anyway, let's see what it says. Romans chapter 14, 1 to 6. As it reads, him that is weak in faith receive you, but not to be doubtful disputation. Your brother's weak in faith, you don't just shut him out. You gotta use the baby in the word. You have to use wisdom and knowledge. Verse 2. For one believes that he may eat all things. Another, who is weak, eat herbs. So you have one that's omnivore, eating all and supposedly all clean foods, and the other one just want to eat what Genesis chapter 1 verse 29 says, just want to eat fruits and vegetables, which are, you have sweet fruits and they have fruits that's not sweet. Eggplant, pumpkins, squash, tomatoes, avocado, those are fruits. Even though they separated the fruits and vegetables for taxation purposes in America. Okay? So, it says, verse 3. Now, it's eating all things, meaning all the variations, okay? Fruit, grains, and flesh. And prayerfully the clean flesh, of course. Verse 3. Let him not that eat despise him that eat not. The one who eat flesh don't need to despise the one that don't eat flesh. And let not him which eateth not judge him that eat. The one that don't eat flesh, he should not judge the one that eat flesh. For the Most High received him. Now at that time when he was talking about, they were in Israel at the time. Right? And they had their law according to eating and how to slaughter the animal. We don't take guns and go hunting and shoot the animal. So there is procedures on eating the flesh, not the fish. For the fish you got to catch an herbivore fish. Of course, we'll talk about what kind of fish to eat and to know. But so if a man eats fish, clean fish, as described in the book of Leviticus chapter 11. And one don't eat, you can't criticize him. Okay? Verse 4. Who are you that judge another man's servant? You're our servant, right? But we're supposed to judge our brother righteously. Alright? Leviticus chapter 19 verse 15. Judge your brother righteously, meaning judge it from the word. Just show him the information. Explain it to him. He says, who are you to judge another man's servant? To his own master he stand or fall. You, he shall be hold up. For the Most High is able to make him stand. Most High can make him do right. One man, verse 5, one man esteem one day above another. Another esteem every day alike. Let every man be full persuaded in his own mind. You want to believe what you want to believe, one or the other. Neither one is incorrect. He that regard the day, regard into the master. And he that regard not the day, to the master he does not regard. He that eateth, eat for the Most High, for he give our strength thanks. He that eateth not, to the Most High he eat not, and giveth the Most High thanks. So if you eat the flesh, you don't eat the flesh, you give the Most High thanks. And the flesh I am going to refer to is fish. Wild fish, of course. Wild, clean fish with fins and scales. I'm not talking about the other flesh, and there's a reason why. Okay? But, not to deviate, I'm getting right back. In the book of Acts, Peter had a vision of eating everything. So, I hear a lot of people who interpret this as having the ability to eat anything without having the knowledge. So I'm going to read it to you, and as the scripture says, prove all things. So I'm going to prove it, what Peter we're talking about, and from verse 1 to 28. I might abbreviate it, but from chapter 10, 1 to 28 in the book Acts. There was a certain man in Caesarea, called Cornelius. He was called Cornelius, a centurion, a ruler of 100, a centuries 100, of the band called the Italian band. So we had the Italians down there. A devout man, and one that feared the Most High with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to the Most High always. This time period was let's say the time period about that time was 64 AD, during down in that place of the Mediterranean. So you have a multicultural people. Cornelius was because of the time period, there was a lot of diverse peoples. So before the Hellenists, the Greeks and the Romans were there, there were people, the place was already inhabited by people, indigenous peoples. So when they took over, there was, of course, there was mixing of the peoples. A lot of these people are of different stocks of people. Some of Caucasian Greeks and some of original indigenous Greeks that was on the land, or Romans that was in that places in Italy. You know. Okay. I'm going to read. Here we go. So, and he gave much alms to the people and prayed unto the Father always. He saw, verse 3, he saw a vision evidently about the ninth hour of the day. An angel of the Most High came unto him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid, and looked, What is it, master? And he said unto him, Thy praise and thy alms are coming up for a memorial before the Most High. And now send men to Joppa, and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. Verse 6, And he lodged with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the sea side, and he shall tell thee what you ought to do. And when the angel which spoke unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that wait on him continually. Verse 8, And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. Verse 9, On the morrow was they went on their journey, and drew near into the city, and Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. So in the 6th hour he prayed, okay? Now here we go. Verse 10, it's the main. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So he had a drink, fell asleep. And saw heaven open up, and a certain vessel descended upon him, as it had been great sheet knit all the 4 corners, and let down to the earth. So he had his dream, his big sheet opened up, and then you'll see what happens. Verse 12. Where all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, creeping things, and fowls of the air. Now, fowls of the air. Why they keep saying fowls of the air? You must understand what that means. Because they're making a distinction between fowls of the air and walking fowls. Because you had walking fowls. Okay? Verse 13. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, master, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. So apparently all these things come down in the vision. The metaphor, he tells them to eat everything that come down. It was clean and unclean. So let's see, let's keep going. Verse 15. And the voice spoke unto him again 2nd time. What? The Most High has cleansed, that call not you common. Now we assume that it's talking about food, but it's not talking about food. As you read it, you see it's not food. This done twice. And the vessel was received up again into the heaven. So it went away. Now while Peter doubted in himself what the vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made entry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So he had to figure out what the dream meant. He didn't say to him to eat it. It was a dream, and he had to figure out what this metaphor meant. Because Peter wasn't like folks who just think he just mean literally go eat the animal. He knows that. So you say, what do you mean about that? Verse 18. And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged. So now here comes Cornelius and his people. While Peter thought of the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him before Cornelius. And behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause you are come here? Verse 22, and they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one who feared the Most High, and of good report among all the nations of Yahudim, or the Jews they call them, was warned from the Most High by a Holy Spirit angel to send for you in this house, and to hear words of you. Then, verse 23, then call he them and lodged them. And on the tomorrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. Verse 24, and the morrow came after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for him, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends, the people like himself. Here we go, almost done. Verse 25, and as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him, and fell down at his feet, and worshipped him, because Peter was one sent by Yah to give him the understanding what he's going to say. Here we go. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. We don't worship man. Again, we don't worship man. We worship the Most High. Verse 27, and as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, you know how that it is unlawful thing for a man that is an Israelite, this was the tribe of Judah, to keep company or come unto one another nation, to another nation. But the Most High has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. This is just about Peter. The vision is about Peter coming in front of one that was not of the same nation. Go down to verse 34. Verse 34 of Acts 10. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth I perceive that Yah is not respecter of persons, but in every nation he that fear him and work righteousness is acceptable with him.